a balloon to the edge of space. And if you watch it, you will see, because those are clouds there. This isn't the ocean, this is clouds. And what have we got here? That's a hot spot from the sun. Now if the sun's 93 million miles away, yeah, but massive, how is it causing a heat spot on here? Well, this is a still from it, you can watch the video for yourself, but this is what it does. There's minutes and minutes of this video as it spins around and you can see it again and again. It will blow your mind because you'll see the sun isn't that far away at all, because it can't be causing a heat spot on the clouds if it's 93 million miles away. If it's massive, it should all be coming in at the same angle. There should be no...
The sun is obviously not 93 million miles away. It looks very close.
Circumnavigation is really just a flat circle path. Gravity as we know it simply doesn't exist.
The sailor thinks that he's traveling around the Earth this way, when in effect he's traveling around the Earth this way. And he's creating a circle. He's moving in a continuous direction around. He goes through the various parts of the circle and he comes back where he started from, swim around this way.
One of heliocentrists' favorite supposed proofs of their ball Earth theory is the ability for ships and planes to circumnavigate, to sail or fly at right angles to the North Pole, and eventually return to their original location. Since the North Pole and Antarctica are covered in ice and guarded no-fly zones, however, no ships or planes have ever been known to circumnavigate the Earth in north-south directions, only east-west. And herein lies the rub. East or westbound circumnavigation can just as easily be performed on a flat plane as it can on a globular sphere. Just as a compass can place its center point on a flat piece of paper and trace a circle either way around the pole, so can a ship or plane circumnavigate a flat Earth. The only kind of circumnavigation which could not happen on a flat Earth is north-south bound, which is likely the very reason for the heavily enforced flight restrictions. Flight restrictions originating from none other than the United Nations, the same United Nations which haughtily uses the flat Earth map as its official logo and flag. So the ball earther's logical argument is that only a globe can be circumnavigated, the Earth has been circumnavigated, and therefore the Earth is a globe. This is indeed a logical modus ponens statement, but the conclusion is rendered invalid because the first premise, that only a globe can be circumnavigated, is categorically false.
There is no curve, man. You went up on top of your house and saw the curvature. You went on a plane and saw the curve. No, you didn't. There is no curvature. You know how I know? I tried to debunk the flat Earth and I failed. That's how most of us get started. We try to debunk the flat Earth and we fail.
There's no evidence for curvature when you use your own senses and your own observations. Across Lake Michigan, from St. Joseph to Chicago is 60 miles. Over 60 miles, anything under 2,400 feet should not be seen. This is a visual of how that works. See the blue, obviously the green line is you're straight out. If you were looking straight out, obviously the Earth's supposed to curve, so the blue line is where it curves. Anything beyond the blue line should not be seen. Sears Tower is only 450 feet high. It's the highest, obviously, building in Chicago. It's giving you the heights of some of the rest of the buildings there. There's quite a famous picture, a guy called Joshua Nowicki, of Chicago from 60 miles away. We shouldn't be able to see any of it. It should be all behind 2,400 feet of curve. Yeah? Now people say, but you can't see the bottom of the, you know, it's proven that the Earth's curved, because you can't see the bottom of it. But you can't see the bottom of it because seas and lakes, they wave. They go up and down, they're not completely, I mean obviously if it's completely flat and completely clear then you'll see a lot more of it. But this actually proves that the picture wasn't taken from very high above sea level. If it was, you'd see a lot more of the buildings, like in this next one. From slightly closer, from only 37 miles away, and should be behind 900 feet of curve, I think we can see more than 500 feet of the Sears Tower there, but you can see virtually all of the skyline. Because obviously it's a clearer day, it's a little bit brighter, and obviously the waves aren't as choppy. Here's the opposite. There's 36 miles of waves in between. Why would we see the whole thing? But we can still see far more of it. It should be 840 feet a drop. We shouldn't be able to see. We should be able to see less than the top half of those. We move on to a different city, Toronto, across Lake Ontario, a place called Grimsby. Obviously not in Lincolnshire. 37 miles away, should be behind 900 feet of curve. The CN Tower is 1,800 feet tall. You should be able to see only the top half without hardly any of the rest of Toronto. Can we see pretty much the whole skyline there? Again, you can check this out for yourself. You can get half a dozen of these pictures from various places all around this bay. Yeah, this is actually taken from the red lines there. It's actually Grimsby's here, so it's actually a little bit further than this red line. But you can get pictures from Toronto from all over this beach. Yeah, and you can see way more of it than we should be. Now people say, oh well, that's light refracting, bending it round the curve. It doesn't look like a mirage. I've seen mirages, they're inverted or they're wavy. We know what a mirage looks like. We can see it in the distance. 81 miles away from Genoa, it's the Isle of Gorgona. It's only 70 feet above sea level. We shouldn't be able to see anyone, or we should be able to see the tip of it. We can see most of the island. It should be behind 4,300 feet of curve. It should have curved away by now. We can still see it. We'll bring it closer back home. The Isle of Man, from the File Coast, 61 miles away. And again, we can't just see the tops of the turbines, we can see virtually all of them. From 61 miles away, Snæfell is 2,030 feet high, 2,034 feet high, so that's the highest point on the Isle of Man. 61 miles away should be 2,480 feet of curvature. Should be, half a mile below the horizon. From London, 75 miles away. Starts getting interesting when you start getting towards the 100-mile mark. We're talking over a mile of dip now. This is the Isle of Oahu, taken from Kauai. Thank you. In Hawaii. It's 90 miles away. Again, you can see, apart from, whatever bit the waves are hiding, we can see a lot of that island. And here's the numbers for it. It should be behind 5,400 feet of drop. Its elevation is 4,003 feet, so we shouldn't even be able to see the tip of it. You can see nearly all of it. This is the Sierra Nevada range from Mount Diablo in California, San Francisco. It's 160 miles away. Yes, we're up a mountain. Yes, they're up a mountain. But you can see, again, a lot of the bottom of the mountains. You can see the snow-capped tops, and then we can see the rest of the mountains as well. 160 miles away, this should be behind 17,000 feet of curve. Again, yes, you might be able to see the top of it, but not all of the mountains. And here's the furthest one I've found so far. This is my record so far. I'm sure it'll keep on growing. This is the Reunion Island from the Isle of Mauritius. It's 149 miles away. It's a long, long, long way away. And once again, we can see the peak, but we can also see most of the rest now. This is quite clearly a very, very good observational day. Very clear, very calm. The highest peak on Reunion Island is 3,072 meters tall. It's just under 2 miles. 149 miles away, everything should be behind 2.8 miles of curvature. Should have curved way, way away. And again, it's not just the tops we can see much more. We can see a lot more, 2,000 feet or so of that. We can see far more. That's what I'm saying about the Z-axis curve. It's not there. It's not there. If you watch a boat out to sea and then get a telescope on it, it'll come back into view again. Yeah, it's perspective, and it's obviously the limits of our eyesight, but it's also conditions as well, quite clearly. Yeah, heat, haze conditions, what have you. Visible conditions do check. But the point is that photographs have been taken. I've just shown you a dozen photographs from starting at 30 miles, 60 miles, 90 miles. Now we can see 150 miles in the distance, and it should well have disappeared behind the curve of the globe. Huge flat places on Earth, everybody's aware. If you ever watch Top Gear, the Bonneville Salt Flats, where everybody goes racing, but there's even bigger ones in South America. Ethiopia, but the Saladillo in Bolivia. They've gone for 4,000 square. They go for hundreds of thousands of square miles. Big flat places on Earth. Yeah, famously flatter than a pancake. The evidence is all around us.
The Earth is flat, and that is that. Don't overthink this thing. It's not necessary.
Primary knowledge or secondary knowledge? You're going to use your own senses, your own observances, your own experiments, hopefully, or you're going to believe what you've been told just because that's what everybody believes.
It's not this overly covert, psyop. What would be the point of that? To discredit the truth movement? If you look into Flat Earth for 3 hours, that you would realize that it's not a psyop. It's not a psyop. psyop of that magnitude that would ultimately bring the truth movement to its... Do you really think the truth movement is going to be brought to its knees anytime soon, given all the information? The same as with Flat Earth. Think about it.
So why? What have they got to gain? You know, why bother? Well, as far as I'm concerned, once you've done research, and if you come to the same conclusion that myself and thousands of others have done, it overthrows heliocentrism, overthrows the Big Bang, it overthrows evolution, overthrows everything we thought we knew about the world.
And I've heard people say that the reason they don't want to publish papers that disagree with special relativity or general relativity is that they built their careers on this. If you were paranoid, you'd say there's a conspiracy. Whatever it is, there is a lot of resistance to getting something published that disagrees with either of Einstein's two theories.
As for all of the photos and video evidence we now have that the Earth is round, well, all of that material is completely fabricated. A hoax perpetrated by space agencies, airlines, globe manufacturers. They are reaping the rewards of our ignorant belief that the Earth is actually round.
Stupid rumor. I started laughing. That's a fact. I knew for certain that I would disprove it. 1 year later, and there's no going back. Researching, I'm racking my brain. The answer could drive you insane. What I'm finding was never the plan. I want to tell you that it's crazy, but I can't. So here's the story, and it's true, a true story about a lie. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Have you ever dreamed of going up to outer space? Or maybe meeting other beings from another place? Have you ever wondered what it's like on other planets? Then you watch a science show and come to believe you understand it? You feel empowered by the knowledge and you feel enlightened, listening to Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. But then you wake up and you start to see the obvious. Life is just a lie and this whole world ain't what we thought it was. NASA's missions to the moon were never completed. They just filmed them in a room and people believe it. I used to wonder what it's like to be an astronaut. Now when I see them acting, I can't help but to laugh a lot. They give us cartoons and they claim that we live on a ball, but it's flat and it's not moving or spinning at all. Why you lying to us, man? That's something that we want to know. After that, you're gonna have to pack up all your stuff and go.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
History has been rewritten by winners of wars, the Jesuit order, Khazars, Freemasons, and more. They pulled the veil over our eyes, and it's time to awaken. Through organized indoctrination, our minds have been taken. It's time we take our power back and we rescue our people. The Vatican and the bankers are like Resident Evil. They may have had the greatest plan that was ever concocted, but Illuminati never thought that they'd ever be spotted. They're manufacturing reality all in our heads. They tell us if the earth is flat, then we'll fall off the edge. But if it is a spinning ball, we won't fall off it then. And gravity is our imaginary magic friend. Why is water always flat when unmanipulated? Why are pictures of the earth computer generated? Why you lying to us, man? That's something that we want to know. After that, you're gonna have to pack up all your stuff and go.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Dear NASA, it's becoming 100% crystal clear that you and the other space programs that are in operation are connected and are deceiving the entire world. More and more people are waking up every single day, and we are now able to see right through you. But what we really want to know is, why are you lying? Sincerely, me and the great people of this earth.
it's made in a Hollywood basement.
The captain thinks the world is round, see? But we all know it's a flat, right?
Of course it's flat. Sure, I know the world is flat.
Well, so do I. Everybody knows that.
I've been making my horizons broader, going on this adventure, searching for the reasons why. All I see is this flat water. With a telescope I can see farther, so curvature does not apply. Now that I'm awake and I can't turn back, I know space is fake and the earth is flat. Look inside your soul and you'll also know that it's not just me. There's a curve on the earth and to me it's surprising. Now I know Earth is not a globe. NASA and other space agencies always lying, but after all, Earth is not a oh, it's not a I know you think you're educated, but you're simply indoctrinated. They're trying to control your mind, teaching us things that can't be proven, like Big Bang and evolution, but we're actually all divine. My eyes are open wide, all my fear is gone. God is on my side, how could I go wrong? People seem so blind to what's going on. It's not hard to see. See the sun as it shines on the sea, local lightning. But they say it's so far away. Sometimes it just seems like they're not even trying. There'll come a day when people say there's a curve on the earth, and to me it's surprising. No, Earth is not a globe. NASA and other space agencies always lying, but after all, Earth is not a
So where's the edge?
Who's to say that there is an edge, and why assume there is one? Is it because when we are introduced to the idea of a flat Earth, it's always depicted like this? In the currently most accepted model, Antarctica is not a continent, but a 360-degree landmass made up of ice that holds the oceans within. When we look at a Gleason's map from 1892 that states at the top that it's scientifically and practically correct, as is. We see this Antarctic ice rim. The Gleason's map is basically an azimuthal equidistant projection, which can be traced back to the year 1000. The AE map is also an official map of the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, and the official logo for the United Nations. The oldest known globe in the world is from 1492. This is something you need to keep in mind because many people argue that the azimuthal equidistant map is just a flattened out version of the globe, when in fact the globe is just a rounded version of this true world flat map. If the flat map came first and it has the ability to convert into a globe without any problems whatsoever, then that should tell you a little bit about how this globe deception was achieved. Now, back to if there is an edge or not. There is no proof that there is an edge past the Antarctic ice wall, but it is speculated by many that perhaps the plane that we live on is either extremely expansive or it's possibly endless. In these two scenarios, it would be logically assumed that more land is being hidden from the general public. In a 1954 interview with Admiral Richard E. Byrd, an American naval officer who specialized in exploration, he had this to say.
But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Implying that there is more land past Antarctica. If that uninhabited land was on a globe, it would be in the Indian Ocean. A recent discovery of an old Buddhist map in a newspaper from 1907 seems to support the idea of a vast plain with much more land.
Where does the sun go if the Earth is flat?
Well, the sun neither rises nor sets, but travels in a clockwise circuit from east to west, and only appears to rise and set due to perspective. The sun disappears at the vanishing point of human perspective on the horizon where the ground meets the sky, and since the sun is not 93 million miles away, I repeat, not 93 million miles away, but much closer and smaller, the light emanating from the sun only illuminates about half of the flat plane at once as it makes its daily journey.
What's underneath the flat Earth?
This is obviously an unanswerable question since the assumed edge has never been known to be reached, but many people suppose that whether the Earth is round or flat, that either way, it still must be floating in the middle of outer space. But the idea of outer space goes out the window with the round Earth theory. Many religious texts support an immovable Earth that has its foundations on which it is laid and its pillars by which it is supported. We simply don't know, but we do know that the Earth is obviously fixed in place as we can tell by our everyday experience of non-movement. What we see in the skies above are illuminated objects making circles around us just as it appears. Whatever this place may be, it's the center of all we survey. Some say that the Earth is the floor of the universe, In the ancient Hebrew conception of the universe, we are surrounded by the waters above and the waters below, known as the Great Deep. The deepest hole ever drilled into the Earth was a total of about 7.5 miles. The very core of the Earth is nothing more than wild speculation, if not another malicious lie. So what's under the Earth? That remains a mystery to us all. But another thing that you can research is what's inside the Earth. Multi-billion-dollar deep underground military bases known as DUMBs, D-U-M-Bs, right?
What about ships and boats disappearing over the horizon?
This is also due to human perspective. They don't go over the horizon, they go into the horizon, moving beyond the limit of our vision and past the vanishing point. But the ships and boats are easily brought back into view with a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and any camera with a good zoom lens. A great question to ask yourself is why can't we see noticeable curvature from 120,000 feet up? But many people claim that the supposed curvature can be seen from the ground by watching boats. It doesn't make sense.
And what about all of the pictures of the Earth?
They are all clearly computer-generated images. They claim this picture from Apollo 17 in 1972 is real, and they also claim that the 2015 Epic Earth picture is real. But NASA employee Robert Simon gave us a glimpse of how they do it when he shared his experience of creating the Blue Marble 2.0 in 2002. He is now called Mr. Blue Marble. He was interviewed and on record stating, "The last time anyone took a photograph from above low Earth orbit that showed an entire hemisphere, one side of the globe, was in 1972 during Apollo 17. NASA's Earth Observing System, EOS, satellites were designed to give a checkup of Earth's health. By 2002, we finally had enough data to make a snapshot of the entire Earth, so we did."
In 2002, Blue Marble 2.0. NASA's Rob Simon made this. Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it was a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry